Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting over episode 14 of Kill la Kill. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, things were looking pretty bleak. Senketsu had been torn into a great many pieces, and Satsuki is now in possession of, I believe, all but one of them. Additionally, she's also gone on the Tri-City raid trip, taking the pieces with her. So after that, Mikisugi is sort of taken care of Ryuko again in the meantime, but he can only help the situation so much. So I guess I am now vindicated. Senketsu is announcing that he's not gone entirely, even though Ryuko doesn't believe it at the moment. So from both Senketsu's account and Mikisugi's account, that one little part of Senketsu that's kind of like an eye is really all that's left. But fortunately, Senketsu appears able to tell where the rest of his pieces are. So with little recourse, Ryuko prepares to head to the Kansai region, I believe, to go try and recover pieces of Senketsu. So beyond that, Mikisugi is finally deciding to get rid of his cover as a teacher. So, of course, all of what he's saying doesn't really make sense to any bystanders. And he's using a lot of esoteric language that the average person wouldn't really understand. That's one of the things I really like about Kill la Kill. It's silly, but it also takes itself seriously. So things are starting to become very serious. The raid trip is diverging, heading to the 3 cities they intend to conquer. Ryuko is also heading out in pursuit of them, and Mikisugi is ditching his cover entirely and operating out in the open. And while that's going on, the captain of the sewing club has incorporated the bits of Senketsu into some of the grunts. The idea is he wants to test and see if that's a good use for them, if they can be used to augment people further. So Inamuda, who's heading up the communications, he's already infiltrated the networks of the other three schools, and he's poised to shut down all their communications at moment's notice. So Honnouji Academy really did their homework here. They're prepared to utterly crush their competition. So first we sort of watch Irigamaguru's progress in Kobe. So the first thing he's doing is sending in some of the committee members. So the fighting so far is highly stylized, I guess for want of a better term. Irigamaguri is all about discipline and the rules and using the weight of them to crush the enemy. So meanwhile, Jakuzure sort of entered, I guess, a supernatural sort of school. She doesn't seem very impressed with their displays of supernatural prowess. So this school has a sort of, I guess, Eastern mysticism theme, with the guardians of the Northwest, East, and South being animals that are often depicted in, I guess, Japanese culture. So, thanks to the film club, Inamuda's sort of projected himself, and he's more interested in what's going on here. So, according to Inamuda, all this supposedly supernatural stuff is really just impressive-looking holograms. So Inamuta's giving all kinds of psychobabble for how he was able to defeat the four guardians. So considering their big supernatural stuff was easily defeated, they have no choice but to send in the ground troops. And now that combat has devolved to that point, Jakuzure and her troops have little trouble fighting them off. So meanwhile in Osaka, Sanagayama is already talking to Takarada, the head of Osaka's school. So, despite shutting down all the communications, Takarada is still able to keep a good idea of what's going on thanks to the gossiping of all the people. So it seems to me that they're really sort of leaning on stereotypes here. So interestingly enough, Takarada is all about the power of money, to the point where money's even used as specialized ammunition. And it's not even that they use the yen or anything like that. They have their own currency. So, in a way, Takarada seems like a foil to Satsuki in that he has utter control over the school that he's the president of. So the fighting is starting to intensify between Sanagayama and Takarada's forces. But interestingly enough, it's not as open as shut as the other two cities. In fact, the Goku uniforms here seem to be making far less traction than in other areas. And according to Takarada, this is because of the power of money inspiring people. So, for better or worse, Mako's ended up in Osaka. And seeing as how they literally shoot money out of their guns here, being otherwise very poor, it seems like Mako's really lucked out. So Mako, being the absent-minded type of person she is, got distracted by all the food vendors and is effectively going AWOL. So it seems like something that might come back and bite her later. Back to Gamaguri, things are starting to get a little complicated. The school they're fighting is sort of mounting a counter-offensive that's slightly more effective than before. So they happen to have a tank, but ultimately it doesn't prove very effective against the disciplinary students that are fortified with pieces of Senketsu. So now that their tank has been destroyed, they really have no choice but to surrender. Notably, I think at this point in the game, none of the Elite Four have their 3-star Goku uniforms. So this is sort of a good opportunity for Ryuko to drive by, nab all the pieces of Senketsu, and then get out without really having to get bogged down in a big fight. Back with Jakuzure, things are really still going as well as they were before. The augmented students are even strong enough to sort of knock the building down with their wind instruments. So just like before, Ryuko engages, manages to swipe all the pieces of Senketsu from Jakuzure's clubs and get the heck out of Dodge before anyone can really retaliate. So back to Sanagayama. He's being informed by Inamuda that Jakuzure and Gamaguri have finished their assignment, but Osaka is taking a little bit more work. So Takarada reveals that in addition to students, he also has civilians fighting for him, simply because he's paying them. So Mako's busy being a tourist in what is now tantamount to a war zone. Really not a good idea to be strolling around when there's active weapons fire going on. So, despite trying to reason with him, Takarada proves irrational. He doesn't care if Osaka's ultimately destroyed by the fighting because they can just rebuild it. And the construction contractors will be happy to get paid. That's a pretty optimistic view of things. However, it looks like the balance of power is now shifting as Satsuki shows up in Osaka herself. So while Takarada might have been able to fight off Sanagayama indefinitely, I don't think the odds are in his favor if Satsuki shows up as well. So, predictably, Mako gets caught by some 1 and or 2-star students and thus lands herself in trouble. So as Mako and Ryuko reunite, it's becoming pretty clear that Ryuko's already managed to get back most of the pieces. In fact, there's only one piece left that she hasn't yet regained. Senketsu also makes a pretty good point. Despite only having a small piece of Senketsu stitched into a scarf, Ryuko's been able to beat everyone else she's come up against, even if they've had pieces of Senketsu stitched into their uniform. So that seems to indicate that even without Senketsu, Ryuko has become a fighting force in her own right. So now the plot thickens again. Senketsu informs Ryuko that the last piece they need is currently in Satsuki's possession. And in Senketsu's current state, life fiber synchronization is impossible. So Ryuko's just going to have to fight like she is. Or otherwise get the last piece back through other means. Nonetheless, Ryuko is undeterred. Alright, that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one.